going on in the courthouse today. On Wednesday specifically, we have domestic violence hearings that are going on. We have on a number of other family judges, and we have a probate jury trial going on. So there's lots of other things going on. So I'll just remind you, please, as always, to try and keep it down as much as possible. Thank you. All right, Mr. Vogt, who's your next witness, please?
We're going to call David Houston, Your Honor. As he makes his way to the stand, we're going to go ahead and introduce into evidence Plaintiff's Exhibit 2.
Wait just a second. So go ahead and swear and introduce it, please.
You do solemnly swear affirm the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes, sir.
Step this way.
Watch your step.
We're going to introduce into evidence Plaintiff's Exhibit 2, which is Mr. Valeri's story. Defense Exhibit 10, the other exhibits referencing Mr. Valeri's depositions, which are Plaintiff 6, Plaintiff 7, Plaintiff 8, Plaintiff 25, Plaintiff 121, and Plaintiff 414.
Any objections to any of those?
These are previous objections, no, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. So then the court receives plaintiff 2, defendant 310. They can figure out the numbering of that. Plaintiff 6, 7, yes, 6, 7, 8, 25, 121, and 414. Mr. Vogt.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Houston.
Good morning.
What do you do for a living?
I'm an attorney.
And do you represent the plaintiff, Terry Balea?
Yes, I do.
And how long have you represented Mr. Balea?
Approximately 9 years, possibly a little more.
Do you recall in March 2012 that there were rumors about a possibility of a sex tape that involved Mr. Balea?
Yes, absolutely.
And what do you recall about the very first time that you were learning about this?
The very first time, I believe, was a telephone call from one of the folks at TMZ. It probably was Mike Walters, although I'm not positive, advising as to, were you aware, essentially, there's a rumor, there's a sex tape going around as it concerned Mr. Balea.
And do you recall being on TMZ Live in connection with the phone conversation with Mike Walters?
Yes. We had been placed in the position of being able to go on to TMZ to advise that Mr. Balea, if there was a sex tape, never knew that he was filmed. He never consented to being filmed. He was in no way participating in the distribution or dissemination of any sort of sex tape, and we definitely wanted to get the word out that we would take any incursion or violation of Mr. Balea's rights very seriously and prosecute as soon as we could find out who was responsible.
We watched snippets of that live TMZ from yesterday, but we're going to play the whole thing so that you can see it all in context.
Okay.
It's Defendants 214.
Welcome to TMZ Live. I'm your host, Charles Smith. So we have a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about the latest celebrity sex tape. It's involving Hulk Hogan, who is really angry about this, and Hulk is going to be on talking about why he's so pissed off and what he's going to do about it. In fact, his lawyer is going to be on as well. They are going after whoever is behind this with vengeance. Jessica Simpson posing naked. Jessica Simpson, fully nude, and about 10.5 months pregnant. And the question that we asked in the morning meeting today, is pregnant beautiful? So we want to hear from you because if we have to say something, it's just going to be embarrassing. Well, I think we should be honest about it. I mean, I think that, you know, there are two... I think you should be honest. I'll be honest. I mean, I think there are two sides to this. But is pregnant...
We'll get back to it, I think.
Sure.
It's the wrong clip. Let's pull up D353. This is Defendant's Exhibit 353. Mr. Houston, do you have an understanding as to what this document is?
Yes, I do.
And what is it?
It was one of the posts by TMZ.com as it surrounded the issues in reference to this purported sex tape that had, according to this article, just surfaced, and of course Mr. Belea's response to questions concerning the same.
And can you see the date at the top?
The date at the top appears to be 2012, March 7.
March 7, 2012.
Correct.
I'm going to direct your attention to the last 2 lines of this article. And it says, Hulk still has no idea who's selling the tape or how that person acquired it, but Hulk's lawyer says, quote, if anyone goes forward with this thing, we're going to find him and we're going to prosecute, close quote. Is that a quote from you?
Yes, absolutely. During that time frame, we didn't know who was behind it. We didn't know where it was coming from. We didn't know who had it, who didn't have it. So the goal was simply to try to do as much as possible to get the word out to whomever that may be, that if they went forward, they were going forward with full knowledge that Mr. Belea had neither consented to nor was aware of the fact that apparently he had been secretly filmed with what we assumed at that point to be some sort of a hidden camera. So the purpose naturally was to announce, if anyone goes forward with this thing, we're going to find him and we're going to prosecute. I mean, the whole purpose was to get the word out. We felt if we could approach it as vigorously as possible, it may in fact deter some people, hopefully all people, from going forward with that behavior.
Did you also have conversations with people at TMZ about what they had and where they received it from?
Yes.
Can you elaborate on those conversations?
Yeah, my goal, as you can imagine at that point, was to become educated. We really had no idea, we had no concept as to where this could be coming from, who was sponsoring it. TMZ in specific was the only organization that I knew of that may have some information. And we felt that if in some ways we cooperated with TMZ, that certainly they may be willing to share whatever information they felt appropriate to share. And at that point, we were desperate for knowledge.
And were they providing you with information?
They would provide information as per, I believe, what their thought process was they could give us, and they were giving me a version of events as to how they had come to information, and it's the rumor mill in some ways, but at the same point, usually these things start and then of course they'll build. So the hope was that they would in fact actually become aware of who was sponsoring this sort of activity.
Thank you. We're going to go back to the TMZ clip. I believe we have the correct one. It's Defense 215, so we'll play that.
Okay.
Oh, first of all, welcome.
Yeah, first of all, guys, there were several brunettes, okay? Let's at least get that done. No, there was, between the divorce and the time I met Jennifer, I had about 4.5 months that I really went crazy, and I actually wrote about it in my book about staying drunk and crazy and all bars, so I was really out of my mind for a while.
So you actually, I'm going to get to the sex tape, but you obviously prefer blondes, but was going for brunettes kind of a statement against Linda Hogan?
No, brother, it was just, I don't know what was wrong with me. I was just so shocked and broken up, because I dreamed that I was the guy that would always stay married, and then, you know, when the whole thing went down, and, you know, Linda fell in love with the younger guy, I got everything on the end, nobody's fault but my own, so I'm not blaming her. But, you know, I just went crazy for a while.
Okay, so I want to say, we are also joined on the phone with David Houston, who is your lawyer in this whole thing. So David, welcome as well.
Thank you, Artie.
So walk us through this. So what year was this tape shot?
Well, brother, I don't know what year it was, but this year, around September, October, I will have been with Jennifer for 5 years. So the question I'm wondering is, you know, why would someone hold on to this for at least 5 years, you know, and then do this to me now? That's what I don't understand, and I did not know it was being done. You know, I just said, hey, brunette, let's put a camera up and have a sex tape. I mean, I'm telling them I'm not dumb and dumber. And so I just don't know why someone would do this, number one. And number two, why do it wait 5
looks like, from what I've seen, it appears to be a little bit old. And the reason I say that is from what Hulk and what he looks like and how what he's discussing about working out and stuff. It seems, and I discussed that earlier when we did the web story, but it only shows a brunette. It shows him. It's a bedroom. It's security footage from inside of a home, and it shows Hulk kind of going towards a brunette woman, and then that's all that I've seen. I haven't seen whether or not this tape is some lengthy thing or what exactly happened after that.
Does that ring any kind of a bell with you, Law? You know, Ari, I'm not trying to be a smart aleck, and I'm horrible with remembering names, but that's why I call everybody brother. But during that time, that 4 or 5 month window where I was going crazy, when I first got into this place, when I sat down with Jennifer, I don't even remember people's names. Last weekend I met too many people, much less girls, 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, or 5 years ago, whatever it was. It's just, I couldn't remember a name if I had to. And the truth is, it wasn't just one brunette. I was running 3 Wilder for a few months.
So,
we started hearing about this last night. One of the first things we tried to do is put together a picture of who this could be. It sounds like it's somebody that hit hard times and had to take, and then hooked up with someone that had the ability to try to market it. And in fairness to them, we want to put them on notice. They're committing a felony. And a lot of people aren't worried about civil liability because you may not have anything, but I think everybody's worried about whether they're going to spend time in jail. And in reality, this is notice. If anybody goes forward with this thing, we're going to find them and we're going to have them prosecuted.
So, Mr. Houston, there was a little bit of joking at the very beginning of that clip. Can you explain what that was about?
Well, it's an entertainment show. Obviously any comments that you're going to make are going in that arena. The other thing you have to remember, too, is I think there was the tenor of the moment, and certainly anything and everything said can be facetious, sarcastic, half bright, perhaps on my part, but the purpose was the message. And the message was sincere, and we believed would at least accomplish our goal with some, if not everyone.
I'm going to ask you to pull up defendants 57, please. Mr. Houston, have you seen this document before?
Yes, sir.
Would you mind zooming in on the date, the exclusive and the date part at the top, please? Can you tell me what this document is, please?
This document is a post on another internet site. It's called The Dirty, and as I understand it, I believe it's edited or run by a fella by the name of Nick Ritchie. And we became aware this document was posted.
And there's a grainy still, as we call it,
right
on the document. Do you recall ever seeing a grainy still of possible sex tape prior to April 19, 2012?
No, sir. And the time sequence, in the end, it's difficult to try to keep everything in a chronological order to the extent there was so much happening at the moment. But if you recall, the TMZ issue was sometime around early March. I think it was around March 7th. And after the TMZ issue, meaning the appearance and the advisement as to what our plan was, what we were going to do, we didn't really hear anything for a period of time. And as you can see by the date, I believe it's April 19th, 2012. So approximately a little over a month later, this subsequent post arrives. And that is the first time that I had seen a picture or what has been referred to by you as this grainy still.
Did you contact The Dirty?
Absolutely.
And what do you recall of those communications? The time frame being April 19 or so, 2012?
Correct. The purpose would have been something very similar to what we were attempting to do with TMZ, which was to get information. Because if there was a sex tape out there, I felt it incumbent upon me as his counsel to try to find it and essentially put a bullet in it. And my goal then was to contact Mr. Ritchie because, quite frankly, it seemed as though he possessed at least more, or appeared to possess more, than TMZ did. Not to mention the fact, my concern was Mr. Ritchie may decide next up would be to post a tape if he had one. I contacted Mr. Ritchie and, in a very blunt fashion, advised him as to what would happen next in the event he posted a sex tape, and Mr. Ritchie had agreed that he would not do so.
Were you also talking with other media outlets around this same time period, April 2012?
Yes, I was talking with media outlets, it seemed like on a daily basis, in the sense that there were rumors floating around, no one really posting anything, but everyone wanting additional information. And again, I sort of felt in a position of being able to hopefully have conversations that might result in a trade of information of sorts. That being our information, we're not part of this, we don't know anything about it, and my client never consented to it and certainly was not aware of it, and in turn try to gather information on what they may have known as far as what they heard, who was doing this, that sort of thing.
Did you also contact Bubba the Love Sponge Clem at the time?
Yes, I did.
And what do you recall of those communications?
The communications were for the obvious purpose. Do you know anything about this? What's up? What's going on? Again, hoping to find information that would lead us in the direction of discovering who had this purported sex tape, where it was, and quite frankly, to get our hands on it and try to destroy it.
Do you recall what Bubba the Love Sponge Clem told you?
Absolute denial as to any involvement, didn't know if anything's going on. He certainly had no part in it. Mr. Blea was his best friend, and I needed to make certain to convey that information. Also, I think that may have been the time where there started to be some finger pointing at his now ex-wife, Heather Clem. If anybody's responsible, it has to be her, so to speak.
And I believe in April of 2012, it was his ex-wife at that time?
I think so. I'm not sure about that, but on the road.
Did you contact Heather Clem?
No, I had wanted to contact Heather Clem and was advised by Mr. Clem, since I didn't have a relationship with her, he of course would be in a far better position to have that conversation. And of course I agreed with him at that point, believing that to be true.
Was Mr. Clem offering his cooperation in connection with this tape?
Absolute cooperation, not only cooperation, but I think it was put, I want to be on the team, I want to chase these guys, I want to find out who has it, sort of discussion.
And so Bubba Clem, in saying that he was going to contact his ex-wife Heather Clem, was in connection with that offer of cooperation? Oh,
absolutely, because again, you have to remember there was the commencement of the finger pointing aspect of, well, it's not me, it must be her, I can't understand this, I would never do that to him, that sort of conversation. And I was hopeful that if that were true, he would have a relationship sufficient to be able to speak to Heather Clem and try to discover A, what was going on, and B, if you're involved, if you're responsible for it, these people are going to come after you. So in your own interest, don't do that. That's the conversation that I had hoped he would have.
Let's take a look at Exhibit Plaintiffs 15, please. If you can zoom in at the top, please. Can you tell me what this document is, Mr. Houston?
This is a letter that I received at my office on behalf of Mr. Balea, and it was written purportedly by an individual named Stephen Hirsch. And Mr. Hirsch, as I understand it, either owns or controls what's called Vivid Entertainment. And Vivid Entertainment is one of those companies that had specialized in the production and dissemination of celebrity sex tapes. And I think he actually mentions that his company has handled some of the more notable sex tapes: Kim Kardashian, Kendra Wilkinson, Tommy Lee, Jimi Hendrix, and as he says, many others.
And then let's read the paragraph that begins, "We understand that you believe."
Correct.
Could you read that for us, Mr. Houston?
Sure. It stated, "We understand that you believe this tape was filmed without your permission. Whatever the case, we would still like to discuss the opportunity to work together, as we feel this would be one of the best-selling celebrity sex tapes of all time.
Did you have a conversation with Mr. Hirsch of Vivid Entertainment?
Yes, sir. To me, at that point, Vivid Entertainment represented a sincere threat. Not only did they have the capability to mass market and produce, but certainly the willingness to do so, if you base it on their past history, with Kardashian tape, the Tommy Lee tape, the Hendrix tape, they were at that point what I considered to be a real problem. My goal in speaking with Mr. Hirsch was, of course, to advise him, if you do this, we will prosecute you. We will do everything within our power, based upon the fact my client was unaware he was being taped. He was taped secretly. He certainly didn't consent to it, and we want no part in the dissemination. We weren't in this to sell a sex tape. And I made myself very clear to Mr. Hirsch.
Let's take a look at Exhibit Plaintiff 16, please. Is this another letter that you received?
Yes, sir. It was from sex.com, I believe a Martin Ellison. Initially suggests he wrote the letter. We subsequently determined that someone actually wrote it for him.
What was the approximate time period that you received these two letters, one from Vivid and one from sex.com?
You know, they were fairly close in time. I couldn't give you a count of days or weeks, but it was fairly close in time because things were happening relatively quickly at that point. And because of the, I guess I want to say because of the urgency of the situation, we were attempting to respond as quickly as we could to anyone who appeared to have knowledge, because remember, it's a twofold purpose. Not only denial of the opportunity or the invitation, but as well a hope for result in attempting to gather information.
So approximately March, April 2012 time period that you received these two letters?
Approximately.
Let's highlight the sentence that says, "We are truly serious." Down. Yes. Okay. Do you mind reading this sentence?
I was advised throughout the course of this letter by Mr. Ellison, quote, "We are truly serious about working with you. This isn't some shameless press opportunity. We have an open checkbook."
Did you contact Mr. Ellison?
I believe so, and the obvious would be true. We weren't in the market to take advantage of an open checkbook. That was not our interest.
You told him you had zero interest in this, and did you also reiterate the prosecution part?
Absolutely, flatly advised that was not our goal, that was not our purpose. Our purpose would be to find who was responsible and to prosecute them to the fullest extent we were able.
Did you receive any information from either Mr. Hirsch or Mr. Ellison with respect to where this sex tape might be, who might have it, anything like that?
No, sir. Everyone was, I guess the best word would be coy as far as how they gathered their knowledge, what their sources were, and it was frustrating, but at the same time, I guess I can say I understood it based upon the position they were in. Essentially, we were saying that, you know, we felt what was occurring was atrocious, and it's difficult at that point in time to get much camaraderie with the individual who's promoting the notion to you or the idea.
Mr. Houston, from the period of time of March 7, when we first looked at that TMZ article, through October 1st of that year, there's about 5 or so, maybe 6 months in there. Was there any sex tape that was posted or any excerpts of a sex tape posted?
No. The interesting thing was we felt that our first action of going forward, advising everyone, if you do this, we're going to prosecute, repeat it over and over and over, almost like a mantra, that actually had some effect, because we went, other than Nick Ritchie of The Dirty, we had gone that entire time frame with really nothing else popping up in the form of pictures or obviously a sex tape. And that all changed, I believe, on or about October 4th, when we became aware of the defendant Gawker's actions.
So let's take it there. October 4th, 2012, what do you recall?
I think I received a telephone call, and I'm not certain, but I think it was from Mr. Balea. And based upon our relationship, we talk frequently over a number of different things, but I think I received a phone call either from Mr. Balea or some other source, everyone knowing what my interest level was in this subject matter and advising me, hey, there's sex tape up. So that was kind of my, I guess, birth into this entire situation.
And did you go to Gawker.com to see?
Oh, yeah.
And what did you see when you went to Gawker.com?
I saw a video depicting my client having sex, oral sex, standard sexual intercourse, took great pains to display his penis, and even went so far as to demonstrate what everyone was saying to each other in that tape by virtue of incorporating subtitles.
And let's take a look at Plaintiff's Exhibit 268, please. Let's blow up the first half of that, the top half, please. Can you tell us what Exhibit 268 is?
Yes, sir. That's, I guess the common parlance is a cease and desist letter. In other words, it's a letter from me to Gawker Media saying, please stop what you're doing. It's not a situation that you should engage in. And it basically, again, sets forth that Mr. Balea was filmed without his knowledge and consent. And as such, I was asking them to take it down. That was my goal. Take the video down.
And let's highlight the paragraph that begins, "It has come to our attention."
Yes.
If you wouldn't mind reading, Mr. Houston.
Certainly. It has come to our attention an anonymous third party recently approached you about a secretly filmed and unauthorized video depicting sexual relations between Hulk Hogan and an anonymous woman. The acts of secretly filming, releasing, and shopping the most intimate, private details of Hulk Hogan's life are morally and legally appalling.
And let's look at the date. Go up and look at the date of the letter. Well, actually, I think this one's...
This is the letter that did not have the date, but was...
Go back to the first page of it. So let's highlight that part, the date and who it went to and who it went.
Correct. That was a subsequent, meaning momentarily subsequent, but it followed chronologically, and an email to, I believe, Mr. Denton that I hoped would be received by Mr. Denton personally, and I attached the cease and desist as well. But I had a different reason for doing the email because at times, if you send a cease and desist letter, certain personalities will regard that as more of a challenge, and I didn't want my efforts to be seen as who was going to win or one-upsmanship setting, and so I wanted to send an email with the letter more or less explaining our position and advising what was going on and approach it more in a human sense as opposed to legal, if that makes sense. But the idea was just to let him know, look, we're not here to challenge you. We're not here to try to tell you what to do. It is certainly something that could cause great damage to my client. Therefore, I'm asking you, please, as another human being, take down the video. And I was careful at that time not to discuss their story, their written word, because at that point, it was a give and take scenario. They'd put up their written words, and I understand some organizations are very protective of the notion of being able to tell a story in their written phrasing. And I certainly found it to be offensive, appalling, and over the line, but at that point, the sex tape was truly the nuclear device. And therefore, if I could accommodate by simply saying, look, please take down the video. Take down the video. It was never scrub your words. Take down the video. That was my goal and my request in not only the cease and desist letter, but as well the email that accompanied it.
Let's take a look at Plaintiff's Exhibit 49, please. You were just talking about the email. Is this an email that you sent to Ms. Gannon?
Yes, sir. That's the email that was in conjunction with the cease and desist.
Just so it's clear, who's Christy Rosser?
Christy Rosser is a legal assistant in my office. I lack the requisite skills to be able to type or to do much on a computer keyboard. QWERTY keyboards simply evade me as far as being able to operate well, so I'll dictate. And I think it's been referred to as old school, but I'll dictate for the purposes of being able to get work out. Also in this time setting, there was so much to do that it seemed to be certainly the most expeditious way of handling it. I just wanted to get the message out. That was my goal.
So let's highlight the paragraph right there that says, "Dear Mr. Denton, I am enclosing herewith." I'll just read it. "Dear Mr. Denton, I'm enclosing herewith as an attachment a cease and desist letter sent to you in your company. As is apparent and quite common knowledge, the sex tape you are showing as it concerns Hulk Hogan was recorded without his knowledge and consent." You wrote those words?
Yes, sir.
And the rest of this email is, how would you describe it? A second cease and desist demand in addition to the letter?
Of sorts, but I was trying to accomplish something that was a little less formal and perhaps to some a little less threatening or to others a little less challenging. In other words, more of a one-to-one conversation as opposed to a cease and desist letter, which, you know, again, as I stated, I think to some people would constitute a challenge of their will or what they want to do.
Let's go back to the prior cease and desist letter, please. Next page. One more page, please. And let's highlight the last paragraph. The last sentence of the last full paragraph. Mr. Houston, can you read the part that says, "if you immediately disclose"?
Sure. I'd indicated if you immediately disclose the requested information and refrain from becoming involved with any use of the video, Hulk Hogan will consider this matter closed and will not seek legal remedies against you for the issues raised in the letter, in this letter.
So you were telling Gawker and Mr. Denton what exactly?
We wanted to walk away. We wanted to put this behind us. We wanted the sex video down. We wanted an agreement it would not be shown. And we wanted to walk away.
And did Mr. Denton and Gawker Media agree to your proposal?
No, sir, they did not.
Did they remove the sex tape at that time?
No, sir, they did not.
Let's take a look at Plaintiff's Exhibit 269, please. Can you tell us what this is?
This was an email that I had received from the sender, Carmen, I'm uncertain of the pronunciation, Stracher, S-T-R-A-C-H-E-R, and the email was to advise me, essentially, thank you for writing your letter, we're not going to do what you ask. In other words, the video's staying up.
So Gawker and Denton were refusing to take down the video?
Plainly and clearly.
Worked over the exhibit, thank you. You've worked with Mr. Belay for 9 years, I believe you said, correct?
Yes, a little more.
And how often did you talk to Mr. Belay in this time period of, say, 2012? Particularly with regard to the TMZ matter, the dirty matter, and all the rest, and every other thing that you work with him on?
You know, it's a constant series of communications about a number of different things. During the period of time, the sex tape issue and all of the other things concerning that, the post, Nick Ritchie's post, the dirty, TMZ, we were in very, very regular communication.
And how would you describe what Mr. Balea was like when you talked to him regarding the TMZ matter and the dirty matter and that time frame? So, Mr. Houston, just to recap the chronology in October.
Okay.
Gawker posts the sex tape October 4.
Yes.
You send the 2 cease and desist communications October 5.
Yes.
Cameron Stracker, on behalf of Gawker, sends an email responding on October 9.
That's correct.
And do you recall Mr. Balea filing a lawsuit?
Yes, and I believe, and please forgive me if I get the date wrong, but I think it was October 15th, the lawsuit was initially filed against Gawker.
So within a very short period of time.
As quickly as it could be arranged.
Do you recall, and I believe we saw some video short clip from it yesterday. There was a press conference on the courthouse steps,
Yes, there was.
and you participated,
Yes, I did.
and I participated.
Yes, you did.
What was the purpose of having a press conference?
It seemed like I had spent months and months and months retreading the same statement, that if you do this, you're violating my client's rights. And if you do this, and I think, and I'm not positive, but I think at that news conference I actually held up the civil complaint and said, there's plenty of room on this complaint for additional names as defendants if you want to join the activities of Gawker or their ilk and attempt to publish this. And my goal was, again, to essentially stop the hemorrhaging. And at this point, I wanted everyone to realize Mr. Belay didn't participate, wasn't party to this, did not consent to this, and it was everything I could do to get that message out. That was my goal then.
And after the complaint was filed, let's say, for the weeks and couple of months after the complaint, did Gawker remove the sex tape?
No.
Do you recall that there were other websites that were posting that same Gawker edited minute and 41-second version of the sex tape with the subtitles at the bottom?
Yes, and I know some like to call it viral. In this case, it was cancerous. It seemed to start now infecting other websites, and it was infecting other websites, and the names, the two that strike me the most, perhaps the most offensive, if it's possible to be more offended, were Slutload, I think was the name. So if you Googled my client, there you go. You're going to go to Slutload. Deviant, Google them, that's where you go. Those are the two that stick in my mind. There were more.
And do you recall cease and desist letters being sent out to these companies?
Yes.
And can you approximate how many?
60, 60 or more.
No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and let you break for lunch a little early today, and then I'm going to ask you to please come back at 1:15.